Hi, my name is David Vincent. I'm the Chief of Police for the Citrus County School District. I'm also the Training Center Director for the Citrus County Public Safety Training Center. Welcome to our Academy introduction. Over the next several minutes, we're going to discuss the entrance process for you as a student into our Academy. At the conclusion of this video, we will give you all of the necessary contact information if you have any questions. So let's get started. Okay, well, welcome back. We are going to go ahead and get started. And again, we just want to say thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in our Academy introduction. And hopefully this gives you the much needed information that you'll need to get your journey started here at our training center. These first few numbers here are pretty important for you. Gives you all of our contact information. The first one, there is myself. I'm extension 4353, Chief David Vincent. Our law enforcement coordinator is Sergeant Dennis Cunningham, and then our corrections coordinator is Sergeant John Pusey. And the most important number for you on this slide is Mrs. Barber, Denise Barber. Her extension is 4352. Please make sure that she will be your main point of contact throughout this process, and you'll be communicating with her the most. So please make sure you have that number, 352-726-2430, extension 4352. All right, so applying to the college, there's a couple of steps in this process. You first must go to wtc.citrusschools.org and hit the Apply Now button. And once you've submitted your application, you'll receive an email from Focus, which is a program that we use, thanking you for your application. Including in that will be the Academy application as well, and you'll have to download that from the link that's provided. Once you do this, you do need to pay for your application fee. It's $40. You can do that in person, over the phone, or mail. And there's also, further into the process, the background fee. That's where we take your fingerprints and make sure that you don't have any disqualifiers in your criminal history before we do the review. You can pay both of those at one time or separately. Just depends on you. So the three sections, you'll have the Academy application for admission. You'll have to prove your Florida residency, supporting documentation, and then the CJSTC 75, which is the physical form required from a physician to fill out for your participation in our Academy. We do not accept handwritten applications, so please make sure that it's all typed and neat. We just can't read writing sometimes. So there's a couple of affidavits that you'll find in your application package. The first one is for firearms and pepper spray. This is for law enforcement and corrections. There's a personal injury waiver and an affidavit of the applicant. You must comply with the minimum requirements according to state statute to be a sworn law enforcement or corrections officer. So please make sure you review that. You must be at least 19 years of age for law enforcement and 18 years for corrections officer, be a citizen of the United States, be a high school graduate or equivalent, not have any convictions of felonies or misdemeanors involving perjuries or false statements. Can't have any no contest pleas to any felonies or misdemeanors involving perjury or false statements, and that does not withstand a sentence withholding adjudication. You have not received a dishonorable discharge from the United States military, and you have good moral character as defined in this subsection 94313 in Florida statute. And you've got to complete a sworn application, pass your background investigation, fingerprints, medical exam, and some of your affidavits that you'll find here will require a notary. So please pay attention to that. We do not have notary services here at the Academy. There's plenty of places you can get that at. If your banks have notaries most of the time, UPS stores, if you just Google that, you'll find plenty of notaries in our area. All right, so your Florida residency, that determines if you pay out-of-state or in-state tuition. I will tell you that out-of-state tuition is almost 3 times what in-state tuition is. In order to qualify for Florida residency, you've got to provide 2 forms of proof confirming that you've lived in the state for the past 12 consecutive months. If you are under the age of 24, you must provide a parent, guardian, and information. Please read that form carefully and complete all of the sections that pertain to you. So some of your supporting documentation, if this is really for our female applicants, marriage license, if you've had a name change, we're going to need a copy of that. Your high school diploma, your GED, or transcripts in a sealed envelope, preferably. Your college transcripts, if you have any of those, signed Social Security card, and a valid Florida's driver's license. A lot of people don't realize that their Social Security card needs to be signed, but it does. So please make sure that it's in that form when you bring it. All right, so some continuing on supporting documentation, things like your arrest records. If you have had any arrests, whether it's traffic or misdemeanors or anything like that, we will need a copy of the dispositions from the clerk's office of whatever county that occurred in or state, and that shows the disposition of that. You have to be off probation for at least 1 year before you can apply to our academy. DD 214, if you're a military veteran, we'll need a copy of that to show your discharge status. We will need a copy of your health insurance card. You can purchase school accident insurance if you do not have health insurance. It's only $12. Covers you while you're here as a student, and we can help you with that if needed. Your physical CJSTC, we'll talk about that in a few more minutes, must be within 6 months. So if you were to do that now, it's valid for 6 months from the day that you get the physical. You must have the physician's mailing address and signature. This is the one part of the application where we want to make sure that we capture the correct information. Sometimes physicians tend to write very sloppily, so please make sure that we have easy to understand address for your physician, the physician's name, and their signature will be their signature, but please make sure it's legible for the name and address. You must indicate from a physician that you're capable of participating in basic recruit training. They need to understand what it is that you're doing. We're not going to a basket weaving class here. We're doing physical fitness, being sprayed with pepper spray, potentially exposed to taser, all of those things, defensive tactics, running, jumping, all of those things. So please make sure your physician understands what it is that you're doing when you go get your 75 form completed. You'll need your CJBAT, that's your entrance exam, your criminal justice basic abilities test score sheet, we'll need that. 4 notarized pages, and your application fee that we spoke of earlier. All right, so we did just mention the CJBAT test. This is a basic abilities test that every applicant must take. There are a few exceptions in there now. If you are a college graduate or a veteran, there is some exemptions for you from taking the CJBAT. But if those don't apply to you, everyone must take the CJBAT. It tests 3 sections: behavioral attributes, memorization, written comprehension and expression, deductive and inductive reasoning. That exam is $39. You have 90 minutes to complete the exam. We have a Pearson VUE testing center here at our college, so you can schedule that in the 100 building up by the front office. Both law enforcement and corrections will need to receive a pass or fail. They used to have a percentage pass on here, but now it's just pass or fail. Your CJBAT is good for 4 years from the date administered, so if you decide for some reason that you're not going to participate in the July or August class and you want to push that out to January, don't worry that you won't have to take that again. It is good for 4 years. All right, so registering for your CJBAT, you go to pearsonvue.com, and this is our testing center, and you'll want to, for test takers, schedule an exam. When you get to this section, you're going to type in Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE. Just remember that, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and it's going to give you a selection of 2 tests that you can take. You will not be able to register for the statewide officer certification. That's for when you complete the academy, because that is tracked through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement database. So you will only be able to click and register for the basic abilities test. So just remember that your criminal justice basic abilities test is what you're registering for. Once you get in there, you're going to have to create your account. This is pretty straightforward. If you've ever created an account online for anything, it's going to ask you some identifier information, set passwords, and all of those things. Once you do all of that and get registered, the most important thing you need to remember is on the day of your test, you have to have your photo ID ready. If you do not have photo ID with you, they will not let you take the test. So please make sure you have some form of photo identification with you on test day. All right, this slide is for Mrs. Barber. She everything that we do is scanned electronically, all of your applications and stuff. So please don't staple documents together. If you need to keep things together, please use paper clips that are we can easily separate the sheets. So please don't put a bunch of staples in your application. The fingerprinting and background, again, that fee is at $65. We usually get results within 2 days. Most of the time, it's much quicker than that, especially if there's no criminal history there. If you currently work for an agency, they can provide us a letter saying that they've done a background screening on you, and that's a law enforcement or corrections agency. So if that applies to you, please make sure that you contact Ms. Barber and let her know that you're currently working for one of those agencies, and we can work something out to where you don't have to do that fee. But if you're not working for a law enforcement or corrections agency currently, you will have to get that background screening done and fingerprint. Physical agilities test. We take physical fitness pretty seriously here. We want to make sure that you know where you're at in regards to your personal fitness. So usually about a week or so before class starts, we will administer the physical agilities test. It's a 1/2 of a mile course. It's exactly 0.5 miles. And there's 13 obstacles, 4-foot wall, 6-foot ladder, hurdles, window and door entries, stairs. And at the end is a 150-pound weight drag right before your sprint to the finish. We will notify you via email of the date and time of your PAT test about a week before the test, and that's usually, like I said, a few weeks before the start of the academy. All right, communications. You are required in your documents to provide valid phone numbers and email address so that we can All right, communication. You're required to provide a valid phone number and email address so we can send important updates required for preparation in the academy. It's extremely important. Most of our communication with you is going to be electronic, so please make sure that we have a good email address for you. Just a reminder, it's your responsibility to monitor your messages and maintain contact with the academy secretary, which again is Miss Barber. Drug testing, we have the ability to do random drug screening, but like I tell every class, I've been doing this a long time. I really don't need drug screenings to know when someone's under the influence. So if there's ever any students suspected of being under the influence, they'll be dismissed from the academy. So, but we always like to put this out there. That we can have random drug screenings, but I can tell you that we've never had to do that here under my tenure at the academy. So again, we can tell when someone's under the influence and deal with that appropriately. Some things to consider: tobacco users. A lot of agencies will not hire you if you've used tobacco in the past year. You'll have to sign a waiver, and that's really due for health insurance reasons. It does help in the health insurance cost. Color blindness. Some agencies may not hire you due to color blindness, depending on the severity. So if you have that issue, that would be something you'd want to call us and talk about. And really, you've got to be able to distinguish between your basic colors, red, greens, yellows, all of those things. Tattoos. Most agencies are prohibiting tattoos on your neck, head, face, hands. Tattoo policies have really gotten laxed in the last, I would say, almost 10 years. We understand that there's a lot more tolerance for visible tattoos, but still your neck and face and stuff is usually those areas that most agencies don't want you to have tattoos. A lot of agencies will make you wear long sleeves if you have tattoos below your sleeves, just depending on how large the tattoos are. Body piercings, we don't encourage body piercings. For females in the academy, you can have a set of studded earrings in your ears, but no face piercings. You don't want to look like this guy here in the bottom right going to apply for our academy, so that's not going to work very well for you. Facial hair for men, I'm sorry to tell you, but we do not have facial hair in the academy. You must be clean shaven. no long hair touching your collar, and the women must wear their hair pulled up. All right, here's my word of advice slide. Social media. Please, if you have social media, I would encourage you to make sure that everything that you have on your social media page is not offensive or anything like that towards any one individual or groups of people or anything like that, because this will come up in your background checks with agencies that you're applying for. If you go on rants or anything on that, I would highly discourage you from doing that. This job will put you in the public's eye, and background investigators will see anything that could be brought up in, a year from now, 5 years from now, that is derogatory towards your character. And that's the last thing that you want to have brought up in the courts system if you're testifying and a defense attorney gets a hold of something that they could spin that was negative towards your character. So do yourself a favor, get all your social media cleaned up, and always post positive messaging there. All right, so the requirements, we've talked a little bit about these things. We're looking for applicants that have integrity, accountability, honor, good morals, honest, all of those things. So when we talk about competitiveness getting into our academy, there is a little bit of competitiveness. We will look at things on your application. If you have a criminal history or do you not have criminal histories, that puts you above each other. So again, make sure that this is the profession for you and that you are a good model of these behaviors. So again, just to review a little bit, make sure that you get that physician's approval, your CJSTC 75, that you can participate in physically strenuous activity, pepper spray and taser. Your background investigation, that's your fingerprinting, that we'll do through FDLE and the FBI. You cannot have any convictions of felony charges, as a reminder, and you can't have any convicted of a felony or misdemeanor involving perjury or false statements. Never received dishonorable discharge from any armed forces, have good moral character, good physical agility and hand-eye coordination, pass random drug screening, and never convicted of any domestic violence. It is unlawful for a person convicted of that misdemeanor to possess firearms, so that is problematic in this profession. So if you have any kind of issues that might be related to domestics, I would encourage you to communicate with us, and we'll look at the criminal history and what the charges were, and we can give you some advice from there. You have to meet the basic skills required by the state of Florida. Obviously, your CJBAT entrance will get you in the academy, and then you've got to be proficient in our end of chapter examinations. You have to require the 100% attendance. There was a misnomer years ago that you could miss 10% of our academy and still pass. That is not true. Whether you're in corrections, which is 420 hours, law enforcement is 770 hours. We have to account for every hour there. If you do miss time, we have makeup policies of the work that's required for the hours that you miss. And typically, if you're in a full-time academy where you're here 40 hours a week, most of your makeup work is written an hour per page. So if you miss 8 hours, you would owe us an 8-hour page. 8-hour paper on the topic of the instructor's choice. Or if you're in a part-time academy, the night academy in August that starts, that we schedule days off where you can come in person on your days off and make up work then. Once all that's done, we recommend you for a certificate by your coordinators, whether that's law enforcement or corrections. And again, there's that minimum score of our end of course exams must be an 80%. We write tough exams at the end of each chapter test, and we do that specifically to help you with your state exam pass rate. So we have a very high pass rate on the state exam, and I think that's really attributed to our end of course examinations that you'll get throughout the academy. All right, so becoming an officer, you've got to complete the academy curriculum, obviously. You've got to pass the state law enforcement or corrections exam, and then activate your certification and get hired by an agency. You have 4 years from the start of the academy to do that. A lot of people are confused by that. They think it's 4 years from the time they get out of the academy. It's actually 4 years from the date you start the academy. So if you're in the academy 6 months or 8 months, you would only have 3.5 years or 3 years and 4 months to get hired by an agency. So a lot of our students are already hired by the time they get to graduation. So that's usually not an issue at all. Tuition assistance, I've always encouraged this. Financial aid, we have a great financial aid department. There is so much financial aid out there right now for public service. You would be foolish not to look into this, because I can tell you that most of our students are getting some form of financial aid and paying for most of their academy. So take my advice, contact our financial aid office, and fill out the paperwork to see if you qualify for any of our grant opportunities, whether those are internal or external, and they will help you out tremendously and help you get through this academy much easier financially. All right, so let's wrap this up. Again, make sure that we get that good email address. You've got to have access to a computer and printer to get everything filled out and printed before your appointment to turn all of that in. If you don't leave blanks on your application, if it doesn't apply, just please put NA in the space, and make sure that you have all the required documentation prepared prior to dropping your application off with Miss Barber. She will, once you have everything together, you'll call into Miss Barber, make an appointment. She'll give you a date and time to be here. Usually it's the same date that we do your fingerprints. So she'll come in, go over your application with you, get you fingerprinted, and you'll be on your way. So pretty smooth process there. Like I said, entry into the academy is competitive. The things that we look for, positives, obviously physical fitness, any college education, veterans preference, demeanor and attitude is a big deal. So from the first time you call us and speak with Miss Barber, your attitude goes a long way if that's positive. Negatives: criminal history, driving history, missing paperwork, incomplete applications. Those are the things that set people apart, whether they get entered in the academy or not when it's competitive. All right, I know that this is a virtual, so it's not a live to take questions, but if you do have any questions coming up, please make sure that you contact Miss Barber at that telephone number from the beginning, and I'll tell that one more time. It is 352-726-2430, and her extension is 4352, and her name is Denise Barber. Again, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time looking through this Academy introduction. I look forward to seeing everyone on the first day of the Academy. And again, please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.